the president did talk about lowering the cost of credit. I think this is very critical because it also helps bolster the issue of saving nationally. However, I think that the approach that we have on looking at people like Fuliza is not the right one, simply because I think that this House, as well as the executive, should be able to commission a credit absorption and utility assessment to look at where do people at the lower part of the pyramid borrow to spend. In my view and my experience as a fintech expert, Mr. Speaker, people at the lower part of the pyramid borrow, one, to spend on consumption, two, to spend on working capital for small businesses, and three, to spend on buying assets that can be able to help them be better in doing their business. Just to give you a map of how this looks like in Fuliza, people who are borrowing between 1 shillings and 100, Mr. Speaker, are 68% of those who are borrowing in Fuliza. 22% are borrowing between Kenya shillings 100 and Kenya shillings 500. 4% are borrowing between 500 and 1,000. 2% are borrowing between 1,000 and 1,500. 3% are borrowing between 1,500 and 2,500. And Mr. Speaker, the critical working capital class that where we should be seeing the huge borrowing in Fuliza is only 1% that is borrowing between 2,500 and 75,000. What does this mean, Mr. Speaker? It means that the crust of people who want to transform their lives are actually borrowing to eat, borrowing to buy Panadol, borrowing to solve basic need problems. We need to look at this very critically, and my view is that the president should be able to look at areas such as financiers who are predatory in giving loans that go to assets. For instance, we all know that today in Kenya, one of the biggest workforce is the boda industry. According to NTSA and Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, we have 1.5 million boda people in our borders. And these 1.5 million, 97% of them are getting their bodas from financing from people like Watu Credit. Let's assess what is happening in the market, Mr. Speaker. If you look at a basic boda that is used commonly in Nairobi, like TVS HLX 150X model, today the cost of getting that motorbike is 150, Mr. Speaker, 150,000, Mr. Speaker. When they go to Watu Credit, who is not regulated by the central bank, they are charged a processing fee of 23,000, Mr. Speaker. And then they are also required to pay a deposit of about 20,000, Mr. Speaker. Yet the same financier requires them to be able to be subjected to a 4.5% interest. What does it mean? This means that a boda who is buying a boda in Kenya today is exposed to a loan of about 154,000 and an interest rate per annum of about 54%. That means that after 2 years, people like Watu Credit will be earning just interest alone of about 166,000. These are the things that we should be able to correct and make sure that it works for the people at the lower part of the pyramid. I still have 4 minutes. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I think that it was critical to look at the issues of rule of law. And the issue of rule of law here, Mr. Speaker, the president did talk about his commitment to the rule of law. But if you look at Article 132, the president is required to be able to make sure that when he's forming his cabinet, he forms it in accordance to Article 152 of the Constitution. 152 says that the cabinet shall be the president, the deputy president, the attorney general, and cabinet secretaries. There is no point there whatsoever where there is a prime